was when the Interior Secretary was here. None of us were involved in the meeting. And so I guess my question would be, how do we break down that barrier where we, the people, are involved in the decisions that affect us? That's short.
So, and kind of as Dan alluded to, we didn't know the final plans until late Saturday night, Sunday morning, when they reached out to Steve, her travel advisor, her person traveling, told us when she should be here. Then told us who she was meeting with. Here. So we got very little notice. Monty, you came into the office that day and asked, and I told you the same thing, and you got a good answer. We need to know what we're doing. But to Monty's credit, he walked down, he found out where they were at, and went into the room. I think you were accepted. And from what I heard, they let you speak.
I spoke with everyone else and finished, and they asked me to leave, and I told them I wouldn't leave voluntarily.
So he said he did go down and waited to speak until the others were done speaking. He did ask you to leave, but he said no, and did get a chance to speak. And you did get a chance to speak some, limited.
Also went around table over there on the survey. It was short, civil speech.
So, how do we?
Dan looks like he didn't know I was there.
I'm having a hard time hearing everything.
No, you weren't down there yet, that part. He wasn't there, was he?
Dan was there.
Okay. When he came down, when the secretary was in town, Monty came into the community center.
Oh, yes.
No applause?
What do you want me to
Good on Monty.
What do you want me to say?
Speak up. I want you to speak up.
Tell him what happened when you went there.
You want to know what happened when I went to the sub meeting with Sally Jewell?
Go ahead.
There was a table set in a square. I don't know, probably 20 or 25 people there with the name card in front of them, what group they were representing. A big representation from High Desert Partnership, I think it was called. And Dan was there, and Honda was there, Nature Conservancy was there. When I first went in, they asked me if I had an invitation, and I told them I did not. And he said, well, I didn't know his name at the time, but I think it was Cartus from the refuge. And he said, well, you need an invitation. I said, where do I get one? He said, from Sally Jewell. I said, well, it's probably a little late for that now. And I told him I wasn't wanting to leave voluntarily, so he kind of shrugged and everybody gave their speech, and when it was over, I stood up and asked to be heard, and which they were agreeable to. And I had 3 points I tried to make. The first was that there was a lot of discontent and dissatisfaction in the community, and a big share of the ranch community felt that the Hammonds resentencing and the Finnegan death was an effort to intimidate and scare the ranching community. I told them that I was all in favor of the collaboration. It was all talking about the collaborative efforts that were going on in the county, and I told them that I was agreeable with that, but they had to, it should be collaborative. The public should be involved in these meetings. That the private meetings were not a way to establish trust within the community. And my final, I guess in the form of a question, I asked Ms. Jewell if she was familiar with the terms of prior appropriation and split estates, and she shook her head no. And I told him probably as the chief land manager, that she might be well advised to get familiar with those terms. That was it. I left, and then there was two sheriffs waiting in the hallway, and I went out. I guess they thought I was gonna riot or something. They were disappointed.
Thank you very much. Dan, since you two fellows were involved in that, tell me about the invitation process, because it sounds like people are really interested in that.
I'm supposed to tell you about the invitation process. Beats me, quite honestly.
How soon did you get notified?
How are we notified?
No, how soon did you know that you were gonna see her?
Oh, 2 or 3 days. Well, no, let me think. One group knew about a week before she was going to come. Where we knew as a county court was a day or two ahead of time. Of course, county court was one of them that extended the invitation, said you had better come out here and talk and listen to what is going on out here. This is another misperception everybody has. The county court isn't cousin to God. We're people just like you guys. And we kind of, quite often, we're the last ones to hear something going on, believe it or not. Everybody assumes that, oh, they're this level. No, we're not. But Dwayne asked the question, how do people be heard? You get involved. That's the reason that we, as elected officials, were invited. Because we go to meeting after meeting after meeting, whether they're beneficial or not, you have to be there to make a presence. You may go to 90 meetings, literally, before one of them is absolutely relevant and germane to what the issue is, to where you can say, no. It's like scoping of all these EISs. Everybody wants public opinion. And we try to read those enough to be giving opinions during the whole course of the thing. There are many, many meetings that we don't get involved in because we don't get the invite. We don't know they're happening, or they're happening in Portland, or we have 3 or 4 other meetings. The old adage, watching politics is like making sausage. It's pretty ugly. And it takes a lot of doings, it takes a lot of persistence, but that's how people get heard. You all have a right to write letters, call your congressman, talk to any of us who are sitting up here offering to be your representative. It takes effort, it takes time. And that seems to be one of the things that is missing in the whole process, is enough people giving enough of their time to become adequately informed, adequately engaged to make the difference. I better shut up.
Bill, can I respond to that?
Thank you.
I'd like to address the question.
1 minute.
Dan, I guess I'm gonna kind of put you on the hot seat, but earlier you said, what was the biggest resource of Harney County? You remember what your answer was?
Absolutely, it's the people.
Okay, so if the Harney County people are the biggest resource, then why wasn't the people of Harney County invited to that? Not just the people on the county court, not just the refuge people, not the BLM people, not those people. On the thing that they had at the fairgrounds, the Think Out Loud, up front was all the county officials. Nobody knew. It was all of the BLM, all of the refuge. It was canned and it was crap.
I'll answer that one. I didn't even know about the, what did you call it?
Crap.
I heard the crap, yeah.
The Think Out Loud.
I heard that one. See, I wasn't even aware of that meeting. And I think I was somewhere out of town in another meeting when that happened. Again, there are a lot of things that come about that we aren't aware of because there are so many things going on. Because the people of this community, the CCAA that Bill was involved in, there were a bunch of people involved in that. There's a core group of people that are at about every meeting you go to. And those are the people that are the pushers and the shakers. As far as the Secretary of Interior and those others, that is totally up to them. We have no say in that whatsoever.
No representation.
No, there's representation, and it's us. Whether you like it or not, it is us. The people that are elected that do put in the time to go to the meetings, to develop the credibility, make the connections. When they come to town, I think the secretary said there were 1,800 counties in 11 western states. For them to come to Harney County, that's a pretty big deal. And for them to listen to everybody, they don't have the time. It was stated there were 25 people at the one meeting. At the next meeting, there were about 11 or 12. We, the court, got a little bit of time with her ourselves, and she went out to the BLM, and it was a 10 or 12-hour day they have planned, minute by minute. For those people, like it or not, they have a lot of things to do, and they talk to as many people as they can. To be able to talk to individuals, that's where individuals need to be making the phone calls, writing the letters directly to them. That's how the individual get involved. Unless you want to step up, put your name on the ballot, and give this a shot like everybody else here is today. Reality. I'm getting told to shut up.
Thank you. Thank you. Since you were involved, Pete, do you have any comments? You don't have to if you don't want to. No?
No more what
Dave?
Dwayne, I'll go back to your question. First of all, you're doing it right now. Everybody that's in this room right now and everybody that's thrown their hat into a ring to run for office is right now contributing to that system, looking for the changes that people seek. So that's going on right now, and you're part of that process. Complacency is everywhere. It's in the voters, and it's in elected officials. You guys have a responsibility to weed that out, just like the people that take on the challenges of sitting in those offices have a responsibility to work on the issues. The other question, Jan, it wasn't put on by the county. That was put on by OPB. They called me, asked me about it, said, would you be willing to come and sit on this with the community? I wasn't comfortable with the way it was set up. I didn't like sitting up in the front row, or the way the guy said, oh, we put the important people up front. Because like Dan said, the people are the resources. And so I think it's good to go to these things and to get your feelings and your opinions out on the table. And I think it's good to have differences of opinions, because if everybody thinks the same way, or everybody's just working on one issue, the others are all going to get glossed over. Not one person up here is perfect. I'm not. I make mistakes every day. My guess is everybody else in the room does too. But we as citizens have a responsibility to work together and make sure that our country stays on track, and in some cases gets back on track. So you're as much a part of that process as anybody sitting up here. So thank you for coming out.
I was not here when all this happened, but as a newcomer to the event, a couple things strike me. One is there's suspicion, great suspicion of the refuge and their people, and of the BLM and their people. And whether it's valid or not, there is suspicion, and it goes back to the Hammonds. Like it or not, that's the genesis of this whole thing, the genesis of why you're probably all here. So anything we can do to diminish the suspicion of government in any form, I think you all need to take responsibility for that and step up and do something about it. I want to get to the judges and the commissioner candidates and have you respond to that question, because I think that's a very good one. It's the guts of what we're talking about.
Okay, I want to take a little different spin on that question as far as how can you break down the barriers and get involved. We hear a lot, right? Or I hear a lot. I don't know what you guys hear, but I hear a lot of, well, if we don't hear from at the county court level, there's nothing we can do. Well, one thing you can do is you can get out and talk to people and engage in people. I can tell you that I decided to run and I went to the county court meetings. Okay, I sat there, I listened, interacted a little bit, but I wanted to learn and listen. Well, it came up during one of the meetings that they were going to go back and speak to the Secretary of the Interior. And you gentlemen that are currently on the county court probably remember this. We were sitting in Judge Grassie's office. And I don't know when you guys were headed back there, but I want to say it was in about a week before they were going back. They were going back to talk to the Secretary of the Interior, and then at that point, they knew that the Secretary of the Interior was probably going to make a visit to Harney County. Not when exactly, but they knew that they were going to be making a visit to Harney County. So I'd listened to during the court meetings and proceedings and all that kind of stuff, and then I'd listened during this time in Judge Grassie's office as they were talking about all these events that were going to happen, and I just threw out my 2 cents. I said, it's great that you're going back to talk to the Secretary of the Interior, and that's wonderful, and you guys remember, and I remember Dan Nichols and he kind of smiled because I was chiming up and saying my piece, but I said, it doesn't matter if you go back there and you have a wonderful meet and greet and nothing happens. You know you have this opportunity. They're not royalty. We treat them like royalty, right? We were blessed with a visit. They're not royalty. They're people just like us. Okay? And we need to be able to go back and have a respectful conversation with them, get our views across, and hopefully get some things done that help the people of Harney County. So I could have said, don't go back there without a plan. Then you can, but don't waste this opportunity. Have a plan. What do you want? What do you want for Harney County? What can they do for you that makes life better for us now and into the future? Obviously, that was met with, kind of, be quiet, you don't know what you're talking about, we know better. But it's the truth, right? You have those opportunities, you need to take advantage of them. They had the opportunity to go back to Washington, D.C., meet with the Secretary of the Interior and multiple other people. They need to have a plan of what you want. What's good for Harney County? What can they do to help you? We knew that they were coming to visit. We didn't know when. They didn't have a month's notice. They didn't know who could be invited, but they knew they were coming. So if you didn't present the plan of what you needed, then you should have presented the plan when they arrived. And if you say, well, they had an agenda, we couldn't interrupt that agenda, there's a gentleman in the audience that interrupted the agenda. So if we have strong leaders, you can say, this is what we need. This is what we need from you. And once again, I'll get back to the fact, they are not royalty. We were not blessed with a visit. They are just people just like us. And we need to take advantage of that and have a respectable conversation with them about what we need.
Bill says a short answer. We did go back with requests, and we have requests honored, of course. The Hawaii Canyonlands, which is at everybody's forefront, and we warned them that if that happens, that's going to be the next. Think what happens now here is big. Wait till that happens. I talked to her.
You don't want to wait.
I'm going to sit on the Southeast Oregon RAC, and I said, and she told us there's nothing on her agenda, nothing has come across their plate about the Hawaii Canyonlands. I said, then why is it on the agenda of the Southeast Oregon RAC, April 3rd or 4th, whatever it was? She looked at her assistant and said, we need to get in front of that. That meeting happened, that was not on the agenda. That got pulled. We did take a message, we did get results, and we can get more.
I live a long ways away, so.
I'm not gonna let you lean on the podium.
Oh, for Pete's sake. Okay, I did go to that meeting March 1st. That's when, the first meeting they had after they came back from Washington, D.C. And my notes say that on Monday when they were back there, they visited with Robert Barney, Undersecretary of Agriculture, USFS, for 30 minutes, Belslick for 20, and Secretary Jewell for an hour and a half. And I also have notes here where Mike Connors and Secretary of Interior Jewell to come out in about, they didn't know when, but they said it'd be within the 60 days of that meeting. And anyway, I really can't comment on much else, but they did know she was coming out because they told us. So, I don't know, maybe they could have got word out to the public in Harney County and, you know, did some more talking and let us know, you know. Okay.
Thank you. You should see the looks I get. I'm not kidding you. It's interesting. It would be great if we had a radio in town to announce all these things that we need to know as the public. So who's going to step forward and start up the radio station?
The Carsons?
It's for them to answer.
Oh. Just saying.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't trip you, Bill. Anyway, my only comment on that is, and I think I was also in that same county court meeting when they indicated what they did while they were back there. But with them coming, they did put it out in the county court meeting that they would probably be out in the near future, but no specific time. But maybe what could have been done, and this is hindsight. Hindsight's always better than foresight. But anyway, we might have commented back to Jewell's office that we need to know this, and we need to get not just your select people, but we need to have it open for the public. And if they were scared to meet with the public, then maybe they shouldn't have come.
Thank you.
I think that when we talk about being active members of society and voters and American citizens, we're doing it today. We're talking. We don't all agree on everything, but we're talking. I've spent my entire life from when I was a small child involved with politics with my grandfather. And as a young member in high school when I was a legislative aide, seeing how our government runs, and I think it's something I've instilled in our 4-H members, is that we must be contributing citizens of our communities. And whether it's the community of the town we live in, the county we live in, you know, I explain to the children, how do you be a good citizen? Well, when you go to the ball games, you wear the color of your team. That's how we become good citizens. We actively do what we can do to make our world a better place. And I think that's why all of us are sitting up here in the chairs. That's why all of you are sitting there in those chairs. We're trying to make our communities better. There is no them and us. We're just people trying to do the best that we can do. And that's why I think that when we take the opportunity to talk to one another and to listen and then make some decisions based on the best for all of us, we actually succeed.
In going to county court for 9 years, I can't tell you how many times I have heard it said, initially to me, but to other people that have come in to the meeting of, you must not have anything else to do. Those people don't usually come back. I come back because I'm stubborn. You'll hear that we don't have, you know, we always have the same people on committees. We don't have a pool to do that. Barbara Cole and I have never been asked to be on a committee. That's going to change, hopefully. I believe in communication. I had the Fizzle Flag website. I had over 7,000 hits a month, larger most of the time than the population in Harney County, and that was because of the forward button. And what I was doing was reporting on what was going on in Harney County and state and national things that affected Harney County. So on my worksheet back there, on the back page, it says, if elected, I will propose and facilitate the establishment of a Commissioner's Associate Circle. This proposal would include bi-monthly training opportunities and an email forum of Commissioner notes and discussion. The Associate Circle would be open to anyone, but today's candidates would be especially encouraged to join and provide leadership roles because we need a bigger leadership pool to pick from. Thank you.
I was also at those county meetings when they were going, when they came back, and they did not know exactly what day they were coming. They say they had no control over it, but the meeting was held in the county building. I think that as county government, you should say, you're coming to our county to talk to us about our county's issues. You are going to have it open to the public, or else you don't need to stop here. Because there's nothing accomplished in a county meeting if the county doesn't know about it until OPV tells their side of the story 2 weeks later. And we have authority as the county court. I mean, yes, they went back there, and because of what they did, they got her to come out here, and then they let her do whatever she wanted. And there was no accountability to her. She is not a princess. She's an appointee. She was told, you get this job. That's it. Nobody here had any say, or in the whole state of Oregon had any say over who was going to be the head management of our federally claimed lands. And so we do have some authority. We could have forced her hand. Did she really want to look good, or did she just want to give her side of the story?
I'll try to communicate this very clearly so that there's not a misunderstanding. But I really believe that the greatest thing that we can do to make sure our voice is heard is make sure that we elect the right representation for us. Because with our Republican form of government, it not being a democracy, it is not always open to a public debate. We have to make sure that we have the right person in office who shares our values and has the best interests of Harney County and will fight for those. I mean, how many people here have been in committee meetings where all it is a bunch of gassing and venting? I think everyone. And no action is taken. There has to be action taken. When it comes to our rights, I don't think we always need a giant debate. We need to select the right person to do the job and let them do it. I think sometimes we feel that when we write letters to our congressmen in DC or in Salem that our voice isn't heard. But in Harney County, I mean, my number was in the paper. You can call me anytime. You can call your representation here and say, whoa, kind of scare them a little bit. That you've got to make sure that you start with the right material to start with. Because, I mean, you can put a pig in a dress, but it's not going to change anything. You have to start with strong leadership to start with. And it's a matter of taking action, not more comment periods or more talking. Did you drive a car here today?
Say again?
Did you drive a car here today?
Correct.
You have to stop your mic. Correct. What if I tell you I'm just going to take your car when we get done today?
I have a gun.
We didn't need public comment. We have the authority to take action.
We're going to shift gears now, and we're going to talk to the two sheriff candidates about some questions. And we're going to talk to the two attorneys that are running for DA. So here's a question for the two sheriff, the one sheriff and the one would-be sheriff. And it has to do with wolves. I'm on the Wolf Committee. I'm the chair of the Wildlife Committee for the OCA, and I've been in wolves up to my eyeballs for quite a while. So, first of all, with the sheriff, I run a ranch at Jersey, and I find a heifer of mine that's been eaten half alive, and she's still around, but it's obvious that a large animal has chewed on her
and I call you, what do you do?
Well, first of all, if anybody's read up on the wolf investigation statistics, you'll find that I think they're skewed in the wolf's favor. So I think as at our level, the county sheriff needs to have a team put together to do those investigations for himself, to make sure that that's happening. Now, we actually do have folks that have been involved with putting together a committee like that and trying to get training on how to recognize what kind of animal killed your cow, whether or not wolves were involved. And I think that taking control of that at the local level is extremely important. I think that if you leave everything up to somebody from outside of the area, your interests aren't always going to be represented. That said, I do believe that a thorough investigation has to be done in every case, because when those wolves become a problem, it's solid documentation that's going to help us in our community combat that problem. And take that a step further. Let's say you come out and see a wolf chewing on your good cow, and you're probably an open sight kind of guy, so you use the Winchester to bump that thing off of there. You're going to want a solid investigation done by people that understand how to do that investigation, that shows that you were acting lawfully. And so I think it's important that we take control of those investigations at the local level, and steps have been done just for that process.
You know, here's another thing. It's all about somebody else. It should be about us. It should be about protecting us. And, you know, I do have a couple cows, but I don't have an investment as you as ranchers do. I just have a couple of them. But that's your livelihood. We should be taking care of you. And as they have let these things into our state, why should we put up with our ranchers and our farmers having their interests taken away from them? Now, yeah, absolutely. I told Wayne Evans this the other day out at the Riley candidates night. I told him that he needs to take care of himself, and then we will take care of him. And what I meant by that, he needs to protect himself and his interest and his property, and then we will take care of him because he has done the right thing. You know, these issues of animals, they become more important than people. You know, the spotted owl, I was over in the valley. The spotted owl became an issue. And now we have no loggers. When are they going to be put on the Endangered Species Act?
Already are.
So yes, you need to do everything that you can in reason. Don't go out and hunt them. So I've known people who've shot them and turned them in, and the feds take care of them, and now they sit in federal prison because of that. But you need to be able to take care of yourselves, and then we'll take care of you.
The conventional wisdom is that it's personal property. Your livestock is personal property, and it's the responsibility of the sheriff to deal with it first. And there's been a learning curve in Ottawa County and others that have had depredation going on for years. They finally learned the sheriff is the key person, and then the Fish and Wildlife Services and ODFW come in next. Any questions from the audience on wolves? Okay, now we're going to get to the legal fellows. This is a question that was given to me. Do you believe the Constitution is a proper guide for our society today? Or do you believe it is a dynamic document that should change with time, and why?
Thank you. We've been getting this question a lot at the meet and greets that we've been going around. And I do want to make this clear before I answer it. This question and my answer to it does not affect how I do the job as, well, right now, Deputy District Attorney, one single bit. It doesn't have any influence on the office of District Attorney. What it would have influence on is if I was running for the Court of Appeals or the Oregon Supreme Court. Okay, it doesn't affect how I do my job. That being said, I'm a big fan of Justice Scalia. I believe in original intent, as opposed to believing that it's a dynamic living document that, you know, can be changed. And basically, you can have judges make law as opposed to the legislature. So that's where I stand. I'm an originalist, believe in original intent, but it just doesn't really affect how a guy does his job as far as a prosecutor goes. Can I respond to his question earlier?
Shortly.
Okay. Your question, how I understood it was, how do you get a seat at the table and how do you have influence on policies? Now, from the district attorney's perspective, from primarily state policies perspective, I think three of the best ways to have influence are position, you get a position with influence, or relationships, the relationships you establish with other people in the government, and credibility, your own credibility, okay? I have the credibility, I have a PhD, that's very, very rare among attorneys, okay? In specifically public policy and with a specialization in criminal justice. I have the relationships already established with other DAs and with the Department of Justice. And then position, well, anybody, the position is just the district attorney. So position, relationships, and credibility are three of the best ways to have influence. It's best if you have all three.
Well, thank you. I'm big. There we go, make sure that cord's in there tight. So, I believe that we are guided by the Constitution, both the Oregon and state constitutions. I believe that they were written with an intent and that the meaning of the words don't change over time. The people who wrote it for a specific reason. If we need to change that, we need to pass a constitutional amendment. The last constitutional amendment was passed, I believe, in 1992. I do believe that the Constitution and how we interpret it does guide my job because we deal with constitutional issues all the time in court. We deal with your right to be free from warrantless search and seizure, with your right to remain silent. And we argue as lawyers, defense attorneys and prosecutors, we argue about whether those rights are violated, and we try to apply it to a specific case. And your interpretation of what the Constitution means greatly changes your response when a defense attorney files a motion saying, my client's constitutional rights were violated. And you need to have a firm understanding of what the Constitution means in order to respond to that, to either say, no, the police did everything right, and we're going forward with this, or in some cases to say, you know, perhaps the officer overstepped his bounds. He went beyond, what he should have done, and I don't have to take this to court because I know that it violates the Constitution, and I'm going to dismiss the case because that person's rights were violated and the evidence against them was illegally obtained.
State law and legislation is made based on the majority of people.
You already spoke.
Which is in Portland.
Constitution is our cornerstone of this country. The countries that have actually gone to it to help establish their countries. It is not a dynamic, living, breathing document. It is a cornerstone of the foundation of this country, and it needs to stand as is. It does have the processes to make changes and amendments, and that has to be followed. And that's really the long and short of it. Doesn't need to be said any more than that. All right?
Well, as I've been traveling the campaign trail, I've been bringing my daughters with me. I've noticed in their school, they go to school in Salem, they're not learning about civics in school anymore. And I mean, they see their dad up here on the stage, you know, giving talks about running for U.S. Senate and talking about the Constitution. I personally believe in the original intent of the Constitution is not a dynamic or living document, as some people would think on the Supreme Court. There's two things I do carry with me on the campaign trail myself. I carry my Constitution, which is a little bit worn. The cover actually just came off here, but I still carry it with me. I carry my New Testament with me because those are the two things that guide me in terms of running for U.S. Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, this represents our freedom. These two things represent our freedom. They represent the very soul of our country. They represent what we need to get back as Americans in order to rebuild and restore our country to our freedom that we once had. The Constitution is an important document. I was looking at it, and Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 basically boils down to, from what I know of the Malheur County situation here in Harney County, I guess, or Malheur Refuge, it boils down to port sports and 10 square miles. That's what DC should be controlling, is port sports and 10 square miles. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. So I am in favor of local ownership of land. The federal government should not be owning 53% of our state, ladies and gentlemen. I was recently down in Nevada. The federal government supposedly owns 90% of their land down there. That's not right, ladies and gentlemen. They're locking up our land so we can't use it to build our local community, support our local schools, support our local economies. We need to get our land back. The federal government is actually disobeying the ONC Lands Act. They are disobeying it. We need to do something to get our land back, ladies and gentlemen, in order to restore our freedom and get our actual government to follow what's in the Constitution. Thank you.
I'm going to start with Mr. Frank now. What plan do you have to make sure that rural Oregon is not underrepresented as it has been?
That's a gotcha.
Gotcha.
You got him at Mister.
Making sure that we're not underrepresented. To bang the drum again, I really think that coordinating with our federal agencies in terms of natural resource issues is one of the best ways to make sure that we're adequately represented. Because in coordination, rather than cooperating with them as a lead agency, we will sit at the table as peers, and our plan will have as much merit as their plan, especially if they're both congruent with Plymouth. That's the way I think we can be best represented. Also, I think a person, rather than just following rules or regulations or policies, has to question them when they come down the pike and see if they are lawful, constitutional, are they beneficial to the people in the county, and if they are not, I think the greatest power all of us have as individuals, and the greatest power a person has in representing us individuals, is to say no. If it's not a lawful policy or act, and they try to force it on our county, we can represent you by saying, no, we're not going to do that. And there are examples of us doing that in the past, and I think that we could do it more in the future. Thank you.
Same question, Pete.
I didn't hear it all.
What plan do we have to make sure rural Oregon is not underrepresented?
To make sure we're not underrepresented, and I've said it before, we need to travel. And unfortunately, it takes us away from our county a lot, but we need to be over there and say, we need to be at the meetings that matter, and Rob said, maybe say no, and Dan can vouch it. I've said it more than once in a county court meeting, and so has Dan. When it comes back to the sage route still. We've been, Judge been into it for a while, and we didn't see where we were getting anywhere. It's like, we're not going to say, stop. If they don't like it, if they're not going to listen to us, why are we wasting our time there? And then follow up on that. It went the other way, because he was so far into it, and I'm not putting down what Judge did. He was beneficial to the process. Still, it was kind of a catch-22. But we need to be in meetings, we need to be represented on these collaborations, coordinations, cooperations, whatever thing they throw at us, we've got to be there. And we need to get we have an association, an Eastern Oregon Counties Association that has been formed, all the counties this side of the Cascades, for just public natural resource issues. So, more of us together and a louder voice helps.
How do we better represent rural Oregon? How do we ensure that?
Well, one of my comments of late is that we used to talk about ourselves as the tail trying to wag the dog, but my feeling is today we're not the tail any longer. We're the tip of the tail trying to wag the dog. So right now, while we have the attention, and I'm not sure we have that much attention out of Salem, we have a little bit out of DC. If there's issues that we want to bring up, we should do it now because their memories are short and they're going to forget all about us very quickly. So we need to act on some of these issues, but then on the other hand, we need to be forceful in saying, no, we're not going to go along with that. And when one of my concerns is when we talk about Eastern Oregon, we talk about the Cascades, and last I heard, Ondo was east of the Cascades, so they're right in the pocket. And in Harney County, with our population, we get very little input even into the Eastern Oregon things. So maybe we have to draw a line around the county and say, this is what we're allowing in our county.
I think the most important thing we can do is to become well-informed and to tell our opinions loudly, clearly, and often. We need to always be at the table when we can. We need to belong to those organizations that promote our lifestyle and our way of life the best that we can. We need to promote loudly that we don't appreciate when others come into our homes and tell us how to act and how to behave and how to take care of the land that we love. I think that the best we can do is to always stand true, say what we believe, and then fight for those beliefs.
How would you ensure we have better representation?
Gee, hand me the mic, you want to know my opinion, and then you take it back, Bill.
Well, which means you don't want to talk for your own.
Okay.
He didn't even see it.
Okay. Thinking things through a little bit. This is kind of the crux of what this group is here for, is representation of you, the people of Harney County. I'll tell you what, it isn't an easy job. Contrary to what every campaign, 4 years, 2 years, whatever. It's like walking into trading horses and you tell the guy, boy, that's an ugly horse. What fool would want to own him? You got to be pretty careful the way you approach things. You have to be diplomatic. No, they aren't kings and queens, these people from D.C., but they didn't get there because they're total idiots either. You got to go in with some respect. You have to have some self-respect when you go in to visit them. There's a sense of protocol when you visit them. And yes, the hardest part about the job is coming up to tell them what they need to know without being insulting to them. Because you insult them, your credibility shot, you're never in the door representing Harney County again. That is the most difficult job about being a representative of the people of Harney County. But we do it.
I've been threatened to be thrown out of a U.S. Senator's office and a U.S. Representative's office. I'm not necessarily bragging about that. That was done in my younger days when I was a little more foolish, a little more petulant, I guess. I've got enemies back there now because they don't like what we say, but we say it for you. We continue to say it for you. And a large part of my request for the community meetings that I had nothing to do with, everybody says, you coming? I said, no, absolutely not. This is what you, as Harney Countyans, believe, what you think are problems. We want to know. There was only one thing on that list that the current county court, a core group of people in this community, is not always expressing, and that was the Malheur Monument. And we have been expressing that, it just hadn't been in the works that long. Again, after listening today, after hearing the questions, I'm more firmly convinced that what I have been doing is what you, the people, want me to be doing. You may not agree with everything I do, but by golly, it's done for the best interest of Harney County. That's how you continually go to meetings. You give of yourself, your time, along with the other people, the core group of this community that does the same thing, and you keep expressing the ideas. Not everybody agrees with you all the time, but just like ONDA and the other organizations, they keep coming up with these weirdo ideas that we keep fighting. Unless you're there expressing something continually, you're not going to get hurt. Here, Bill. Thank you.
I've been thinking about this for a little bit here. I think if you want a rural Oregon or Harney County represented, then I think when someone comes from Washington, D.C., and they come to our county, that they, instead of meeting with Honda and the BLM and people that are putting all the restrictions on us and stuff, is sending the wrong message. They need to meet with the people.
Absolutely.
And instead of people that do not represent our county or our even rural Oregon.
I had an experience this last week where Water Resources Department was approving some administrative rules. And they sent out a preliminary copy and my name was on it. I wasn't on their RAC committee and there's no way I wanted to be on their RAC committee. And especially since I hadn't put any input into that plan, I did not want my name on it and I asked for it to be off. So Dwight French had, in his sending the paper over, said, I'll be in the office Monday and Tuesday, can talk to you before Wednesday. And I wasn't getting a call back of any kind, and I was getting to 5 o'clock and I knew they were gonna approve this on Wednesday. So I got on the website and I got the name of the commissioner and I called one of their agency commissioners who happens to be from Ontario. All these state agencies have commissioners or representatives on the east side, and we need to make contact with all of them. I had never visited with Mr. Korn before, but he called me back as he was driving to Salem. And I think we need to make those contacts. And we need to be more of us in Salem if need be.
So the question is, how do we make sure that Eastern Oregon, and more specifically Harney County, is more represented or better represented? It's pretty easy. We engage the members of the community in a conversation as much as we can, and so when we do have that opportunity to meet with someone that can have influence over our life, then we know what Harney County wants and what Harney County needs. And it's not as simple as And some of you might not agree, and some of you people might not do this. It's not as simple as just meeting with those people that are think the same as you. You have to meet with everyone. But if you know that at some point the Secretary of the Interior is going to make a visit to Harney County, and that's a good thing, and we maybe can make some inroads into things that we need, then we need to engage the community so that we can influence what's going on. And you guys have a say. You guys are represented. That's how the people of Harney County get better represented. The people of Eastern Oregon get better represented by their leaders.
I believe that it all really starts with education. If you don't know where power for government comes from, if you don't know where your rights are, you don't know when we as elected officials are doing our job and when we are not. So it all goes back to education, and we have not been educated as a nation for 60, 70 years, really. A few of us have. Some of us have decided to educate ourselves. But that's where it all starts. That's the bottom. And then from there, we have to exercise our rights. And we need to be involved. I mean, we really do. I'm not doing this because I want a career in politics. I'm doing this because this is my right and my duty to my community and my country. And I will serve for 6 years at this position if that's what you want. But my goal is to get the absolute best person up here to fill each position. And if that's you or you, whatever, any one of you, if that's the best person, then that's who I want there. And if you feel that I am, then I will serve for you. But we have to pick the right people. We have to be engaged. We have to be there ourselves. We don't have to go to every meeting. We just need to keep track of what's going on. And we need to bring up our issues. And that's how we become better representative. We do need to coordinate with other agencies and other counties. All the counties on the east side of the state pretty much are facing the same thing that we are. Why aren't we working together with all of them? And I'm sure there is some. There is. I've heard some of it, and stuff is going on. But we need to really emphasize that because we do have a voice. You know, the split is not as big as we think it is. When they tally up the votes and the one party wins, it's usually only by a few thousand votes. And our county's got a few thousand votes that didn't ever vote because they're disenchanted. And they're not, you know, it hasn't been going our way for a long time. If everybody interacted and everybody was aware and everybody voted, we would be heard.
Well, I'm running on a statewide level myself, but I can just sort of speak in general terms about local representation. I believe local representation is the key to our freedom. I'll tell you a story about 7 years ago is actually when I first put my name in for office. I just got tired of sitting on the couch watching TV and complaining. And the TV wasn't responding back to what I was complaining about. So I just got tired of it. I got fed up and I had to do something. And I ran for, at the time I was living out in Eugene, but I ran for Lake County Commissioner. I didn't get it, I didn't give up. I ran for state legislature, I didn't get it, I didn't give up. I ran for school board, I didn't get it, I didn't give up. Ladies and gentlemen, as a country, we have to take that mindset. We can't give up. The very future of our freedom, the very future of our country is at stake here. It's not just a U.S. Senate race. We're talking about a U.S. Senate race, we're talking about the U.S. House, we're talking about the president, and we're talking about changing the structure, changing the future of the Supreme Court. Our whole government here is at stake because the Senate advises and consents for the judges. The president picks the judges in the first place, such as the checks and balances system we have in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, we all need to get up and fight. We all need to get out there and vote. We all need to run for office. I tell you another story. I was in the operating room for my two daughters being born. And I can tell you that when you first become a father, I'm sure that some of the men in the audience here have had that experience. When you first become a father, it changes your life. Life is no longer just about you. It's about taking care of the life that was just born. I can tell you when I was in the operating room, they pulled my oldest daughter, Heather, out. And I held her in my hand. And that's the moment that I realized. It was a very emotional moment for me. But I realized at that moment in time that I had to take care of the life in my hand. I had to do what it took to take care of life in that hand. I know it's providing a roof over their head and food in their belly, yes, but it's a lot more than that. And that's why I run for office. That's why I vote, and that's why I run for office. Because I not only want to put a roof over their head and food in their belly, but I want to ensure their freedom, I want to ensure their children's freedom, and I want to ensure their grandchildren's freedom from now and into the future. Thank you.
I like what you had to say. Ditto. Anyway, my opponent spent a lot of time with his town hall meetings, and I've been to a number of them. And in the course of those, what I found was he had a really bad habit of talking over everybody's head. It seemed to be like he was trying to keep people confused about what he was talking about. He wasn't trying to be just straight up with them. And that's some of the tools that politicians use to kind of keep you kind of perplexed, like, that sounded like it might be right, but I'm not really sure. So then you don't really question it. You just kind of go along with it. It's not necessarily complacency. Sometimes it's just not understanding what he's saying. For me, what I figure is this. I have so many months in a given year that I'll be in the House, and we'll be in session. The rest of that time, I have an obligation back here. I have a fiduciary and moral responsibility to my constituents, not just the people that vote for me. In the course of that, that's a 40, 50-hour work week at least, just going out and meeting people and talking to people, not just town halls, but actually seeing you face-to-face at home and dealing with you face-to-face. That way you can see me, you can know me, just as real as you. I put on my pants the same way. I jump out of bed, both legs at the same time. Surely some of you do that, right? Yeah. Well, I figure, like I said, being a representative is about being like the people you represent. You know, I started out in high school putting gas in my car, just working, shoveling out pigsties, bucking bales, changing pipe, all that character building stuff we all do. And in my travels, 10 years in the Navy, to investment executive, to project management in the oil field, done a lot of stuff. I've related to a lot of people. And I think that's the key. If you can't relate to people, you have no business representing them. So that's what I'm going to do.
We have two questions possibly that I can